the biggest story with the points then coming out of this race is that they didn't really change all that much.
Yeah.
So Bubba Wallace was able to advance for the first time ever. He's made it in to the 16-driver playoff. And I think that's really cool, especially for 2311 and for Bubba Wallace. So what was kind of your opinion on, how this final 16 kind of stacked up here at the end of the regular season?
I think it went about as it should. I think we came into this race knowing that it was either Bubba Wallace, if he finished the race he was in, or somebody else outside behind him won the race and knocked him out. But yeah, for Bubba to be racing for a championship, be racing in the playoffs, it's good on him. I think it's his 6th year in the NASCAR Cup Series. Going to be his first playoff run, and this first round actually looks like it could suit his driving style and the way 2311's been running really well. Mainly circling Kansas, because he won the race last year. They've showed tons of speed at Kansas in the past 2 years. I think for him, going into this first round of the playoffs, it's very doable that he gets through it.
I agree, and I think these next 3 races really stack up well for him. Like you said, he's very good at Kansas. He hasn't really been great at Darlington. His average finish there is fairly low. I think we could actually see a non-playoff driver win at Darlington again like Eric Jones did last year. But for me, I think it's great for Bubba Wallace. It's great for his sponsorship. It's great for 2311. And I'm like you. I think he has a good shot to go out and win Kansas and maybe advance to the round of 12. But I also think that the big story in this is that, like I said, for the past 4 or 5 weeks, Chase Elliott did not make it.
Yeah.
And to me, I had that feeling pretty much ever since they started trying to point their way in. And I thought there's no way.
Yeah.
He's just not producing enough stage points, stage wins, and having enough good finishes to point his way in. And do you think that this lights a fire underneath him and we could see him kind of rattle off 4 or 5 wins here in this postseason and he's not really in contention?
That 9 car is still in the Owners' Championship, which means to me they're still going to go for wins. And I think it's doable. I think he's going to come into his own a little bit. He's got to string a couple of races together. He's been out of the car 7 times this year. But yeah, I think we could see Chase Elliott win a couple races. Where? I'm not really sure. But I could see it. I could see him rattling off a few. And even in this next 3 races, this first round of the playoffs, we saw it last year. All 3 drivers were non-playoff drivers. And Chase Elliott is very good at a couple of these tracks. So I think he's going to be very aggressive. And I also think he's going to try and help his teammates out this year.
I agree. And to me, I'm looking at Chase, and the pressure has to be alleviated at this point. I mean, you're not running for the championship. All you have to do now is just go out and win races.
Yeah.
And finish well for your sponsors and finish well for your team and look at that owner championship. So for me, I think that he may be on the verge of winning more than he was trying to point his way in or trying to win his way in the last 3 races where, they haven't really been running all that well. I think he may be able to get into a little bit more of a rhythm as we wind down the 2023 campaign. So I agree with that. So the next thing that I want to do is, or that we've discussed, is, do you want to go ahead and pick your championship 4 right now, as they sit, and then we can update this later? So
I think we do that, and then every round we can kind of go off of it and change it up or stick with it. But yeah, it's hard to pick this year, especially the knockout round. I think trying to pick 4 drivers who are going to be knocked out every 3 weeks, that's going to be hard. Chris Buescher has been really good. I want to put him in the top 4. I don't know. He's been really hot right now. I think he could be solid. I just don't know if I should put him in yet, but I think William Byron and Martin Truex, they're lock-ons for me right now. They've showed speed all year round. They've been incredible at almost every track we've been to. So I think those 2 drivers are in. I think Kyle Larson, he could sneak his way in if he strings together good finishes. That's been his problem all year round. He just hasn't been able to finish races. He's been there to win the race, just hasn't gone his way towards the end. So I'm going to put him in. I think if towards this last couple races in the season, I think if they string finishes together, he can get in. And then Kyle Busch, he's been slow throughout this year, some spots, but that team has been really, really good when they need to be good. And I think with the races that we have coming up, I think he could win every 3 weeks and lock his chance into the playoffs.
I like it. So for me, I'm going to agree on 2 of those. So we've got 2 that are the same, 2 that are different. At the beginning of this year, I said that Byron was going to have a breakout season, and he has. So I don't know if I looked in some magical crystal ball or what, but Williams been running really, really well, and he, to me, has been very consistent, and they've been really lucky. I mean, they won a rain-shortened race. They were at Atlanta in a good position. Rain came out, they won the race. They were in a really good position a couple weeks ago, ended up cycling to the front, won the road course at Watkins Glen. So for me, I think he's been in the right place, right time. I think him and Rudy Fugle kind of mixed together. They're a very good combination, and they work well together, and he won an Xfinity championship with Rudy Fugle as well. So I think that combination adds a lot of strength to them. Truex has been on all year. He won the LA Coliseum. We've had a number of races on Monday, and that's Martin's Day. If you run on a Monday, pretty good chance that he's going to win the race. He did that at Dover. He had a very good chance of doing that at a couple of other different Monday races. And so I think him and his crew chief, James Small, they've kind of worked out their, kinks in their armor, and they're firing on all cylinders. I think those 2 cars are probably the best 2 cars and best 2 teams right now out of all of the 16 playoff drivers. Larson, I think, has been pretty good, but I think Chris Buescher down the stretch has been a little bit better. And I think that there will only be one Ford in the Final Four, and it will be Chris Buescher. I
could see that.
I think that RFK has been very consistent. Him and Brad both have been running in the top 5, not just one of them. Chris has just been in the opportunity to get more wins.
Yeah.
And so he's capitalized on that. And he's a former Xfinity champion as well. He knows what to do. He's been here before. He hasn't won a Cup Series championship yet, but I think that he's having a good year. And, let's not forget, he also won a race before Chase Elliott did.
Yeah.
So this guy can drive a car, and I think it's his time. They've been languishing at RFK for a while now, and I think with Brad going over to that organization, they finally got the shot in the arm that they need, and they're coming into their own, and I think they're going to be very, very dangerous through this whole stretch of the next 10 races. I think Buescher lines up well with a few of these tracks, and I think that he can maybe get a couple more wins or continue to do what he was doing before and almost point his way in.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're very similar with our picks. I could see Chris Buescher. I'll probably end up changing that pick later on because he's just been on fire. That whole RFK group has been really, really solid. I could see Chris Buescher going all the way. Brad, I'm kind of 50-50 on. I think he's been good, but hasn't been as consistent as Chris. And the 3 wins at 3 totally different tracks kind of sells it for me on Chris. I think he's going to be, with Kyle Busch, he's probably going to be right there with him in my pick.
And then the last one, hate to do this, but I'm going to pick Denny Hamlin. He right behind Truex. He's been very consistent, and he's a good race car driver. He's won a ton of races. He's been here before. The only problem with Hamlin is when he gets to the championship 4, I think out of the past 3 or 4 times that he's been there, he's only led like 2 laps. So it's like he makes it to the final, the final 4 drivers for the championship, and then rides around in 5th all day. Yeah. So it just doesn't translate. But that's my 4. I'm going to pick Buescher, Byron, Truex, and Hamlin, and you picked?
I picked William Byron, Truex, Kyle Larson, and Kyle Busch.
Hi, I'm Doug Rice, lead anchor for the Performance Racing Network. Thanks so much for checking out our videos. And as always, make sure you hit the like button. You can leave words in the comment section down below. And of course, we want you to subscribe. We've got a lot of great content coming your way, including excerpts from the Pit Reporters, PRN's Fast Talk, and of course, JC's Garage. Now ring that bell.